What is up, guys? Dzeeff here, and today we're going to be taking a look at my top 8 Brilliant Madolche deck profile. I took this to the Indianapolis regionals yesterday. It was a very long day, 9 rounds. I played against 3 Pepe, 3 Cosmo, 2 Magispector, and 1 Ignite. Of those matchups, I felt the Ignite one was actually the one I was most afraid of, because it was the one that I felt like was like out of my control. Like I still won, but I lost game one because he opened Carnagorgon Tyrant throws, and with the other decks, I felt like the games were all in my control, and like any loss that I had, any game that I lost, I felt like I either could have won. I just felt like I could have won all of them except for maybe one where I super hardcore bricked. But generally speaking, you have a lot of control with this deck, and it's pretty hard to lose if you're not like an idiot. Not even that. It's just like if you put the time in to know the combos, you should be able to win most of your games. But against Ignites, like you can't just win if you can't play any cards. So I was most afraid of that matchup. The other decks I was considering playing for this regional were Cosmo, Magispectors, and Geargia. The problem with all of those was that I really didn't like that those decks had to go out of their way to like kill things that were untargetable. I'm thinking of like the Cosmo Mirror is kind of stupid with like big ships not being able to be targeted. They like go out of their way to either like make a dweller or just like have the honest or whatever. And I didn't really like that aspect of it, so I just wanted to play a deck that could naturally get rid of cards that weren't able to be targeted. And Madolches are pretty darn good at that. So I'm going to kind of talk about why I played certain card choices, as well as some of the combos that I figured out throughout the day. Most of this deck was theory. There wasn't a lot of playtesting that went into it, but I think overall I was pretty satisfied with the result. So starting off, we have 3 Angeli, pretty much the best card in the deck. She's also really cool. Valor wasn't really popular at this event, but Maxi was, so a lot of times what would happen is my opponent would like Maxi the Angeli, and then you can just summon another one in defense mode because it can bring out itself, and it can't be destroyed by battle. And what I noticed throughout the day is that a lot of decks actually struggled to get over cards that can't be destroyed by battle. It's kind of funny actually, especially like Cosmo. If they don't have the Dark Destroyer, if you've gotten them down to a low amount of cards, they just can't get over a defense position Angeli. It's pretty cool. And then we also played 3 Mageline. This card's obviously really powerful with Brilliant Fusion. That's honestly, if you have Brilliant Fusion, it's better to have Mageline than Angeli. So that's kind of cool. But overall, this card just ups your consistency. I'm playing 3 Hoot Cake. I know a lot of people just play 2 Madolches, but with this deck, you just wanted to like wombo combo as early as possible. So I felt that 3 Hoot Cake was like the easiest way to do that. I also played 2 Mess and Gelato because you don't really want to draw it. I did draw it quite a few times, but generally you don't really want to play 3 because the idea is that you don't draw them, you just have them in your deck to special. I played 2 Cat Waffle because this deck just wants to OTK. I know a lot of people swear by 1, but a lot of the combos in this deck require you to have a Cat Waffle in deck to special off of the Hoot Cake. So if you draw 1 or 1's in your grave and you need to do those combos, you can't. So I decided to play 2, and I don't regret it because, like, I don't know, you just want to see this card in your hand. Even in multiples, it's fine because that's at least a rank 3. I also played 1 Pudding Cess because I really wanted to make the Madolche rank 5 using the Pudding Cess. Its effect is extremely broken, and there are some pretty crazy combos I realized throughout the day. I'll talk more about that when we get into the extra deck, but Pudding Cess as a monster wasn't super effective, and I opened her 10 times in a 9-round tournament, but I don't regret playing her because I won a lot of games just for the fact that she was in the deck, or in the deck, I mean, like I included it in the list, because even when I drew it, there were times where I normal summoned it just to make the rank 5, and it still like got in there. So that's pretty cool. We also played 2 of each of the Perform Mages. These are pretty good. A lot of people already know these cards are great, but we're playing Brilliant Fusion, so you need lights to send, and these are, without a doubt, the best cards to use with Brilliant Fusion. I explained in the last version of this deck profile that I kind of just built for fun, that like if you just have Mageline Brilliant Fusion, you can OTK your opponent, and part of the reason is because you can send Trick Clown so you can make Trapeze Magician for free. But these guys are really great. I originally was playing just 2 Trick Clown and then 1 of each of the other ones, but I bumped them all up to 2, and I think that was a good decision. We also played 2 copies of Geminite Garnet. You have to play it for Brilliant Fusion, and it's the best one to play with Brilliant Fusion. So that is the monster lineup. I felt it was pretty solid. I didn't really miss Max C at all. I'm actually pretty glad I didn't play Max C. I don't think it was worth a main deck spot. For the rest, we played 2 Chateau. I know a lot of people like to just play one of these, but I felt it was worth it to have a second copy so that you could search it and then play it over the first copy to put a Madolche card in your grave. And I did that several times, so I'm glad I played 2. I also played 1 ticket. That's pretty standard. Not much to say about that. Unsurprisingly, we played 3 Brilliant Fusion. This is like the main reason I played this deck. Having that extra normal summon is just insane. You can just do so much off of it, especially like in Madolche. Like, it's just crazy. This card is so good, and it puts level 5 on board, so you can make a rank 5, and like Brilliant Fusion is really good. In a lot of decks, you can't do anything with the Seraphonite, but that's why I like this deck, because you actually can use it for a rank 5, where decks like I know some of the Pepe lists were playing Brilliant Fusion, and they can't like do anything with the Seraphonite. Additionally, I played 3 Instant Fusion. Obviously, Instant Fusion is incredibly powerful, but the main reason that you want to play Instant Fusion in this deck is because you can summon Norden. So like if you have Angeli Instant Fusion, you can summon the Jelly, tribute it for Hoot Cake, and then Instant Fusion for Norden. Norden brings back Angeli. From there, you can make like a Castel, get rid of a card, and then you can use Hoot Cake's effect to banish the Norden special Catwaffle from your deck, and then make Levier. And then see, Norden isn't limited to once per turn. You can Levier the Norden back and bring back the Angeli again and make a second rank 4. That play is just like fucking insane, and every time I got it off, I won. So that's a cool combo to know. I played 2 MST because I thought Pendulums were going to be big. I'm really glad I played 2 of these in the main. All the decks I played against at least had some back row. Everyone was playing, like, at the very least, it felt like everyone was playing like Warning and Emptiness, no matter what deck they were playing. So I'm glad I played the MST. I didn't know how many Magispectors I would play against, so I played Lances. I think in hindsight, I wouldn't play Lances. One thing I learned at this event, I think a lot of people learned, is that Magispectors are just pure garbage. They just don't do anything. Like, all their cards are minuses except for like their search effects, and they just need like the perfect hand to open up. And even with Pepe, you basically need to open the Draco Slayer guy or you lose. I was watching Pepe people and Magispector people just brick all day if they didn't open like specific numbers of cards. So I don't think I needed to play the Lances, but better safe than sorry, I guess. I honestly can't even think of a time when like Lance actually like got in there and like saved me from losing. So I kind of wish I didn't play Lance, but it wasn't like the worst card ever. I played 1 Regeki to clear big boards. I felt that right now a lot of the times what happens is like one player like has a turn of setup, one player has a turn of setup, and then like after that first turn of setup, both players are just trying to like OTK. So it felt like Regeki was just kind of like an equalizer and just made it way easier to OTK from my point. I also played a single copy of Double Summon. Double Summon isn't great, but it's basically just like a fourth copy of Brilliant Fusion. And I just wanted to win as fast as possible, which, by the way, I didn't go into time at all throughout the entire tournament. So that's like, I don't think I've ever played in a premier event and not gone into time. So that was pretty cool. For the traps, we just played 3. The obligatory Palooza, which was cool because it's like a searchable defensive card against OTKs. I used it for that a lot. If I felt that if I couldn't kill my opponent, or I felt they had like a damage juggler, I could just search a Palooza so that if they did get over my board, I could just Palooza and then still be in the game. And then I played Warning and Emptiness, just because, like I said, like a lot of people were just playing Warning and Emptiness in their like big decks, just to have like these are just like so powerful and so versatile that I think you have to play them. Yeah. For the extra deck, I think I went into everything multiple times, so I would say the extra deck was pretty solid. Token card. But we were playing 2 Queen, You really don't need 3 ever, so I don't know why you would play 3. I don't think anyone really does though, but I felt like you needed 2. Even though you can shuffle the first one back with the Chateau, I still think you need 2 of it. 1 Trapeze Magician, probably my favorite card in the extra deck. It just like allows you to win games that you like probably shouldn't have been able to win, so that's pretty cool. I played Crab King for the same reason. Trapeze Crab King, while it didn't come up this tournament, has come up in other decks I've played Perform Ages in, where like your hand is just really bad, but you can still make 2 rank 4s, and your opponent has a clear board, and you can just do this and kill them. I also played a Castel. Castel's really good. And I think he might even be like the most efficient way of getting rid of, like, of beating Pendulum decks is like just Castelling shit. So I think he was really useful. Diamond Direwolf. There's no Exton anymore, but Diamond Direwolf was maybe the card I went into most in the extra deck that wasn't Queen. Diamond Direwolf just is super versatile. Basically, what this deck wants to do is summon a Direwolf, try to blow through a back row, summon a Castel, try to blow through a back row, and then summon a Queen and get rid of their monsters. That's kind of like your main game plan. And Diamond Direwolf is just super efficient at that. And yeah, like you can, like one of my favorite combos is just like Castelling something and then summon Diamond Direwolf and then popping the Castel because it's a wing beast to pop a card, which means that if your Diamond Direwolf survives, you actually get 2 uses out of it, which is pretty neat. I also played 1 Dweller. I went into this only like twice. It's okay against Pepe. There's a situation where my opponent like had a damage juggler in grave and a trick clown on field. So like I made Dweller, attacked over the trick clown, so he couldn't get its effect. And then on his next turn, I activated the Dweller, so he couldn't get the damage juggler search. And that was obviously really good. But in the other like matches I played against Pepe, I just like OTK'd them, so I didn't even really need the Dweller. Because it doesn't really help you OTK where all these other cards do in some way or another. So I don't know, but I felt it was still worth it just to have. I also played 2 Levier. Levier is really powerful in this deck. I wasn't going to play 2, but at a locals, I was seeing at locals if I like could cut Levier, but I still played 2. And I ended up going into 2 3 times in that local, so I just decided to play it. And I did go into 2 at this regional on a couple occasions. And then 1 Invoker, who is pretty cool. Levier is usually better, but there are a couple scenarios where Invoker is just better. If you don't have a Madolche banished, then Invoker is pretty cool. And then I also played 1 of this guy. So this guy's effect is really cool. Basically, you can rank it up on Tiramisu, and then it's just normal effect, no matter how you summon it, is once per turn you can shuffle Madolche card from your grave back into your deck. But then its second effect is if a Madolche card is shuffled from your grave back into your deck, you can actually detach something. You can detach material if you have a Pudding Cess as a material, and then special Madolche from your deck. So basically, the combo that I discovered was that, and I guess it seems pretty simple now, but is that if you just have like this and a ticket, you can then shuffle like anything back from your grave and then special 2 Madolches from your deck, and that is just like obscene and insane, and it's really good. So that's really cool, and I think that like previously when I played this deck, I just feel like I was playing it wrong because I wasn't utilizing this nearly as much as I should have. But I went into that several times. Like I would say I went into it every match at least, maybe twice a match. I also played 2 copies of Norden and 2 copies of Seraphonite, just the fusion monsters that you have to play if you're playing this version of the deck. That's it for the extra deck. There wasn't any cards that I like felt I really needed and didn't have. I think in general, Queen just gets rid of everything, so you don't even really need to worry about stuff. At the locals, I think I wanted like a Ragna Zero one time, but that didn't really matter. So before I talk about the side deck, I just want to mention one of the problems I figured out round 1 with this deck is that you have very few cards you can actually side out. So the cards that you really can side out are Emptiness Warning, Double Summon Regeki, and Lance. So you really only have 6 cards you want to side out. And if you're playing against a trap deck, you're keeping in the Lances. And if you're playing against like some decks, you're keeping in these cards as well as the Regeki. Like But these are really like the only besides MST, these are really the only non-combo cards in the deck, and you want to keep all of your combo cards in your deck so that you can OTK your opponent in the second game. So generally what I sided out, so I always ask my opponent to side out Emptiness because that gave me something easy to side out. But a lot of the times I was just siding out 2 Lances and Emptiness, but you really, like, you don't want to mess with the consistency of the deck, so, like, you can't just side out, like, a ton of stuff. So when we're talking about the side deck here, just realize that you really can't side in many cards without screwing up your strategy, which is something I might need to work on later. But you'll see, like, I had too many slots in here that were, like, oversided for specific strategies when I really didn't need it. So starting off, I played 2 Denko Sekka. This card is actually the card I sided into most. Same thing, I guess I can, 2 Denko Sekka, 3 Decree. So this deck is really good against big decks because they don't play any back row, and that just leaves you free reign to just do whatever you want to. And when this deck has free reign to do whatever it wants to, it doesn't have to waste Exceed summons on Diamond Direwolves to blow up back row, which means you can just like make like a huge board and do like 1,000,000 points of damage, and that's really cool. But against little decks, you have to like waste stuff to get back row. Except if you play Denko and Decree, you don't have to waste stuff on the back row. You can just do whatever. And seeing you're playing against little decks because they're playing back row, you can then they can't set up a huge board to push through. So not only do you not have to worry about back row if you have these cards, you also don't have to worry about a huge board because the decks that are playing back row won't have a huge board. So these are just like auto win against like little decks, and they were fantastic and probably what I sided into the most. I also sided into 1 copy of MST quite a bit. I kind of wish I mained it instead of like one of the Lances, but I couldn't really have known. Yeah, like one thing that I discovered was that Mad Specters are just like garbage, so I think a lot of people learned that. We also played 2 Max C and a Flying C. I sided into like 1 Max C a couple times, and 1 Flying C. I think against Pepe one time. It's not like great because they can still like do synchros, but it's okay. I also sided 2 Poisonous Winds. You definitely don't need to side this in this deck. Like, Mad Specters are just really bad. Just really, really, really bad. And because of that, like, I was just siding, like, Denkos and Decrees against them. Like, you don't need this. This was completely unnecessary. You don't need to floodgate them because they're just not that good. Or, I mean, you don't need to floodgate the Mad Spectre cards. You just need to floodgate, like, the back row so you can just win faster. And even then, though, I didn't lose either game 1 against the Mad Spectres I played against because it's like, even with their back row, the deck just isn't good enough. But you don't need to side Poisonous Winds, so don't play that card. Unless you're like playing a deck that like, if you're playing a little deck, Mad Spectres might be kind of tough, but I wish these were just anti-spell fragrances because that's good against Pepe. And I will be putting in anti-spell fragrances going forward. Anyway, we also played 2 Shadowmere. Didn't play against anything that was relevant against, but whatever. And then same thing with Ptolemy and Diamond. I just wanted them in there. These were kind of for Infernoids too, because I can't side Iron Wall, but like I didn't go into them. But overall, it was a pretty fun tournament. I'm kind of like in the midst of like trying to get back into Yu-Gi-Oh, but trying maybe not to. So it's kind of a confusing time for me right now. But I had a lot of fun. I'm glad to get a top 8, and I will see you guys later. Goodbye.